The morning sunlight streamed through half-drawn curtains, painting golden streaks across Alexander Wright's cluttered Brooklyn loft. The air hung still, carrying the weight of everything unsaid, and there he stood, barefoot on worn hardwood floors, wearing nothing but Alex's faded blue shirt, the same one carelessly thrown over a chair the night before. James Connolly's eyes met Alex's, half ashamed, half broken, but entirely real. In that moment, Alex didn't see a stranger. He saw someone who'd been running for too long and finally stopped. The previous morning had been ordinary until it wasn't. Alex had been heading to his workshop near Dumbo, tools in hand, mind filled with measurements for a custom maple bookcase. That's when he spotted James sitting at the edge of Brooklyn Bridge Park Pier, arms wrapped tightly around himself. Shiveing on a pewter. James looked misplaced, fragile, trembling like autumn's last leaf. His clothes were soaked, dark hair clinging to his face. He didn't flinch when Alex asked if he was okay. Just whispered, "Do you have a phone?" That was it. Alex offered his jacket, called a cab, then noticed James wince. While trying to stand, the bruise near his collarbone wasn't the only one. Others hid beneath damp clothes. Telling stories, his silence protected. The cab driver refused after learning James had no money. So Alex did something unexpected, brought a stranger home. Alex's loft wasn't much. A converted industrial space with exposed brick, workbench covered in tools, half-finished furniture projects, and a couch that had witnessed better days. James stood hesitant by the door, scanning each corner as if measuring whether it was safe to breathe here. "Bathrooms there," Alex pointed, promising to wait outside. "Take all the time you need." 5 minutes passed before water ran. For the first time, the silence in Alex's apartment felt alive. When James emerged, steam trailing behind, he wore Alex's blue shirt instead of his torn sweater. It hung loosely, sleeves covering his hands. He looked both vulnerable and strangely peaceful, like someone who hadn't felt warmth in years. They barely spoke. James ate soup slowly, cautiously, as if uncertain he could finish it. Alex pretended to focus on fixing a chair, but noticed everything. Faint scars on James's wrists. How he flinched when a door slammed outside. How he startled when Alex accidentally dropped a spoon. That night, Alex offered his bed and took the couch. Around midnight, he woke to muffled sobs. He listened as James broke quietly in darkness, understanding some pains need private expression. By morning, James had vanished. The shirt was folded neatly on the bed. The window stood open. But there was a note. "Thank you for not asking who hurt me. If you believe kindness can change lives, if you believe in the power of second chances, please support our channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Heart Stories." Sometimes the deepest human connections begin when we offer shelter without demanding explanations in return. Weeks passed. Alex returned to crafting custom furniture, tried convincing himself it hadn't happened. But James lingered in his thoughts. The lost soul from the pier who disappeared wearing his shirt, leaving only silence behind. Alex searched the waterfront several times, asked around nearby shops, even filed a welfare check with local police. Nothing. He wondered if James had found safety or returned to whatever danger he'd escaped. The faded blue shirt's absence felt strangely significant, like a missing puzzle piece. 3 weeks later, Alex was meeting a client in West Village when rainfall drove him into a corner cafe. The canvas wasn't just any coffee shop. Exposed brick walls displayed local artwork. Rainbow flags hung discreetly by the entrance, and bookshelves overflowed with LGBTQ+ literature. It embodied sanctuary. That's when Alex saw him. James stood behind the counter, arranging pastries in a display case. His hair was pulled back, cheeks carrying more color. He looked lighter somehow, still fragile, but breathing easier. Evelyn Harrison, the 65-year-old owner, was showing James how to arrange muffins artistically in the window. Her silver hair and kind eyes suggested wisdom earned through experience. Later, Alex would learn her son had once fled an abusive partner, driving her to create this haven where safety wasn't conditional. Alex approached uncertainly, unsure if James would even remember him. When James looked up, his eyes widened with recognition. Something passed between them, an unspoken acknowledgement. "I'm working here now," James said softly. Avoiding direct eye contact, they needed help. I needed something to do. Alex nodded, offering a genuine smile. "You look better." James returned a faint smile. "I'm trying." Over subsequent weeks, Alex found reasons to visit the canvas, sometimes for coffee, sometimes just checking on James. Gradually, James opened up, laughing occasionally, discussing art with customers, even showing Mrs. Harrison sketches he'd made. One evening after closing, James confided in Alex about Derek, a successful music producer who'd initially charmed him with affection and career promises. The relationship had twisted slowly. Derek isolated James from friends, controlled his finances, dictated his clothing choices, monitored his phone, and eventually used violence when James disobeyed. "I didn't think anyone would help me," James admitted, voice trembling as he prepared to go cups for morning. "But then you did. You didn't ask why I was broken. You just let me be human." That night, Alex realized kindness rarely arrives as grand gestures. Sometimes it's simply offering temporary shelter without demanding someone's trauma as payment. Healing begins not when wounds disappear, but when someone acknowledges your pain without making you explain it. The calm shattered one afternoon when a sleek black Tesla parked outside. Derek, tall, expensively dressed, charming smile hiding, dangerous eyes, entered. The canvas. Everyone noticed James freeze mid-sentence, color draining from his face. Derek approached casually, as if nothing had happened between them. "Baby, you've been impossible to find," he said, voice honeyed but eyes cold. "We need to talk about your things at my place." The implicit threat hung in the air. James had left everything behind when he escaped. Derek was dangling the past like bait, reminding James he still controlled pieces of his life. Healing isn't linear. Sometimes progress crumbles against unexpected triggers. The strongest survivors still harbor moments of weakness against voices that once defined their worth. Alex instinctively moved toward James, positioned himself between them without speaking. Not aggressive, just present. Derek's smile tightened at the interference. "I don't believe we've met." Derek extended his hand. "Derek Westwood, James's partner." "Ex-partner," Alex corrected firmly, ignoring the handshake. "He works here now." The tension crackled like static before lightning. Mrs. Harrison emerged from the back room, assessed the situation with one glance, and calmly announced closing time despite being mid-afternoon. When Derek refused to leave, she mentioned the security cameras and her friends at the precinct. He departed, but left menacing words hanging. "This isn't finished." That night, James paced anxiously in his small apartment above the canvas. Derek had found him. The carefully constructed safety felt compromised. "He'll never stop," James whispered, hands shaking as he clutched a sketchbook. "He sees me as property." Alex contacted Marcus Chin, his longtime friend and lawyer specializing in domestic abuse cases within the LGBTQ+ community. Marcus connected them with Rainbow Shield, an advocacy group providing legal protection and counseling for survivors. "Abusers like Derek rely on isolation," explained Sophia Williams, their Rainbow Shield representative. "Your strength comes from community people who understand the specific challenges queer survivors face." The restraining order process proved emotionally exhausting. James had to document abuse without photographs or hospital records. He'd hidden his injuries out of shame and fear. Derek leveraged his connections to delay proceedings. His attorney painted James as mentally unstable, claiming he'd fabricated abuse for attention. Despite this, James slowly reclaimed himself. Therapy sessions helped him identify manipulation tactics. Art became his voice. Dark, powerful canvases depicting fractured identities and healing hands. He transformed the small room above the cafe into a studio, spending hours there when not working. Alex's friends expressed concerns. "You barely know him," Marcus warned during a design consultation. "His ex sound dangerous, connected, and obsessed. This could blow back on you. What would you have done?" Alex challenged. "Left him on that pier." "No," Marcus sighed. "I'd have done exactly what you did. I'm just worried about both of you." The attack came 3 months after Derek's visit. The canvas's front windows shattered at 3 a.m. Spray-painted slurs defaced the walls. Nothing was stolen. Making the motive clear, intimidation. James blamed himself. "He's punishing everyone who helped me." His voice hollowed with guilt. "I should leave before someone gets hurt." The community responded unexpectedly. Neighboring businesses donated materials. Local artists volunteered to replace the damaged artwork. LGBTQ+ groups organized a fundraising event that drew hundreds. What Derek intended as destruction became rebirth. The canvas transformed into a symbol of resilience. Mrs. Harrison watched customers fill every table the weekend after repairs finished. "Sometimes our worst moments reveal our strongest allies," she observed before clutching her chest suddenly. Her face paled as she collapsed. The ambulance arrived quickly. "Heart attack," the paramedics confirmed. "Moderate severity." James rode with her to the hospital, holding her hand, whispering reassurances while blaming himself for bringing trouble to her doorstep. Safety isn't just physical protection. It's knowing your pain matters enough for others to stand beside you when the world feels hostile. True healing happens not in isolation, but in communities brave enough to say, "Your wounds deserve witness. Your story deserves voice. And your recovery deserves protection." Hospital fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Mrs. Harrison's face as James maintained his vigil. 3 days had passed since her collapse. Alex brought fresh clothes, coffee, and quiet companionship. "She created this place for people like me," James whispered, staring at Mrs. Harrison's sleeping form. "I can't be the reason it ends." When she finally woke properly, Mrs. Harrison's first words weren't about her condition. "The cafe?" she asked weakly. "Who's running it?" Alex had coordinated with regular customers, artists, writers, and activists who volunteered shifts. The canvas remained open, refusing to surrender what they'd built together. "I've been thinking," Mrs. Harrison said during recovery, hands trembling slightly as she adjusted her hospital blanket. "I'm 70 next month. Too old for morning rushes and late inventory nights." She looked directly at James. "You understand what the canvas really is? It's yours if you want it." James stared, disbelieving. "Mrs. Harrison, I can't possibly." "Evelyn," she corrected. "And you already have. The place comes alive when you're there." The transition discussions had barely begun when legal papers arrived. Derek was claiming ownership of James's artwork. His lawsuit alleged the pieces were created during their relationship using materials he'd purchased, making them joint property. More disturbingly, he demanded financial compensation for supporting James's career. "It's another control tactic," Marcus explained during their legal consultation. "He's using the system to maintain access to your life." For James, the artwork represented more than canvas and paint. They embodied his reclamation of self. Each brushstroke had helped reconstruct his identity beyond victimhood. The court date approached with mounting tension. Derek's legal team submitted character witnesses questioning James's stability and credibility. Local news caught wind of the story, a prominent producer against an unknown artist. Online discussions polarized between victim blaming and support. The night before the hearing, Alex found James standing before his largest painting, a figure emerging from darkness, wearing a blue shirt that glowed like salvation. "What if he wins?" James asked, voice barely audible. "Then we start again," Alex answered. "Art can be recreated. You can't." The courtroom felt simultaneously vast and suffocating. Derek arrived with an entourage lawyer, assistant, even a publicist. James had Alex, Marcus, Mrs. Harrison in a wheelchair, and Rainbow Shield advocates. When Derek's attorney characterized James as an opportunist exploiting a minor disagreement for financial gain, Alex couldn't remain silent. Despite Marcus's warnings about decorum, he stood. James left with nothing but the clothes on his back. Alex stated clearly, "I found him hypothermic, injured, terrified. He didn't even take the shirt I lent him when he left my apartment." Does that sound like someone planning extortion? The unexpected testimony shifted the atmosphere. Several others approached the bailiff, requesting to speak former employees of Derek's. witnesses to his controlling behavior, even a barista who'd seen Derek grab James painfully during a public argument. The judge's ruling came with unusual commentary. Artistic expression born during periods of duress belongs fundamentally to those who created it as pathways toward healing. These works represent Mr. Connolly's journey toward recovery, not property to be claimed by the person he recovered from. Outside, reporters gathered. Someone asked James how it felt winning against someone so powerful. He paused thoughtfully before answering. "This wasn't about winning," he said. "It was about learning that your voice matters even when someone spent years convincing you it didn't." The media attention transformed into something unexpected. "We Stand With James" began trending as survivors shared similar stories. The canvas became an unintentional headquarters for a growing movement against relationship violence in LGBTQ+ communities, highlighting how frequently these cases went unreported or unaddressed. True justice isn't simply legal victory. It's reclaiming your narrative when someone else has written your story without permission. Healing requires not just escaping abuse, but dismantling its lingering authority over how you define yourself afterward. Autumn painted Greenwich Village in amber and gold as the canvas underwent transformation. James envisioned something beyond a cafe, a sanctuary where art, advocacy, and community could intersect. Alex designed the renovation, blending functional spaces with artistic elements, movable walls for exhibitions, comfortable corners for support group meetings, and a small stage for spoken word events. The centerpiece became the gallery wall, where James mounted his exhibition titled "Wearing His Shirt, A Visual Journey from Isolation Through Healing." The blue shirt appeared symbolically throughout the collection, evolving from shelter to strength to choice. "Art saved me twice," James explained during the opening night. "First by giving me something Derek couldn't control, then by helping me understand what happened wasn't my fault." Evelyn Harrison, fully recovered and serving as mentor rather than owner, watched with maternal pride as James guided visitors through the exhibition. Her son Michael attended too, their reconciliation another thread in the tapestry of healing. The canvas fostered. The Second Chance Foundation launched that same evening, a nonprofit providing emergency housing, legal advocacy, and counseling for LGBTQ+ survivors of domestic violence. Alex and James established it using proceeds from artwork, sales, and community donations. Safety shouldn't depend on luck. James addressed the gathered supporters. "I found help because Alex happened to walk past that pier. Too many others remain trapped because their piers remain empty." Local businesses partnered to create employment pathways. Legal firms offered pro bono services. Therapists volunteered weekly sessions. What began as one cafe evolved into a network of resources challenging the isolation abusers depend upon. Derek's final attempt at interference, sending reporters to question James's qualifications to run such initiatives, backfired spectacularly. Survivors from across the city arrived to form a human chain around the canvas, silently demonstrating solidarity. On the anniversary of their first meeting, Alex presented James with a small silver pendant shaped like a shirt. Engraved on the back were the words, "The moment you felt safe." James immediately fastened it around his neck. "You saved me." James whispered as they stood amid the community they'd helped build. Alex shook his head. "No, you saved yourself. I just opened the door." That evening, surrounded by friends who had become family, they watched as another survivor entered the canvas for the first time, eyes scanning for danger, body tense with memories. James approached slowly, offering not questions but presence, the same gift Alex had given him 1 year earlier. Sometimes those who walk into our lives when we least expect them become the very reason we find purpose again. James once wore Alex's shirt when he had nothing else. Today, he wears courage, confidence, and a heart rebuilt from fragments others discarded. What would you do if you found someone broken by circumstance? Would you demand their story as payment for your kindness? Or would you simply offer shelter and let healing find its own timeline? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Heart Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing real journeys of resilience, love, and the families we choose when those we're born into fail us. Because everyone deserves to find their canvas a place where safety isn't just physical protection, but the freedom to rebuild without explanation.